You're listening to Colin Bradley Artcast with Colin Bradley and Stephen Bradley.
Hey, thank you very much.
Bye!
Thank you very much. There you go. There's our intro for this week. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Colin Bradley Artcast. I'm Stephen Bradley.
And I'm Colin Bradley.
Thank you very much, our lovely Mims.
Bye!
Bye. Well, that was novel, wasn't it?
We had a comment on our last podcast saying, did we fire the voiceover lady because we haven't done any for months? And it's because I don't edit them in the same way that she doesn't appear on every episode because we're doing them on video now. So I said to Mims, do you want to come along and do it live for us?
Oh, why not? That's good.
Guest appearance. So thank you, Mims, for that. How are you doing, Dad?
I'm doing very well. We've had a very noisy afternoon here. It's been bang, 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 saw, because they're right underneath us now. Whereas last week and the week before they've been out on our extension. Now they've moved into below, which used to be the gallery, and it's been divided up into two with a connecting doors, folding doors. So it's going to be one if we want it, or two if we want it. But there's a lot of noise been going on. It really has, and so it would have been impossible to do the podcast then. And
This is actually take two, isn't it? We did try it, but it was just too noisy, so we just decided to start again, didn't we?
Absolutely.
So how are you doing there, Dad? Are you good?
I'm doing very well. Yes, it's been I was going to say it's been a quiet week, but it certainly hasn't been that. But a quiet week as far as work's concerned. I finished off the Bulldog, as you know, and that went well. And I haven't really got the next one lined up. I've got quite a lot to choose from. I've got at least half a dozen that I can choose, and I'm not sure what I'm going to use yet. So it's going to be interesting. But I keep you guessing until next week.
Fantastic. Well, last week I forgot to put the picture of the cat on screen in the edit. So this week I will not forget to put the Bulldog. This is, as I watch this back on the edit, I'm going to remind myself, Steve, put up the picture of the Bulldog now. There it is. Screen. So let's talk about this picture. We asked everyone last week sort of what they thought you might do for the background, because it was a very interesting background. I'm just putting it up on my phone so I can see it while we talk about it. And it looks great. It's your impressionistic style foliage background. But talk to us about the picture, Dad. What did you decide to do with the background for those that are listening and not watching?
Well, I was very fortunate because the reference picture, I haven't got it here, so I can't show you again, but remember, I might have brought it up on the screen. It was, I used that background idea because it was good. I varied it a little bit, but basically that was a good idea. And I was mentioning that professional photographers tend to put, fade or make the background, what's the word? Out of focus is probably the word. There's probably a right word for that, but it's out of focus background. And because of that, it then brings the animal or the subject forward. And I do that a lot on my pictures. So this had that kind of already set in place for me. All I had to do was interpret it, which I did. And it came up very well. But there was a point then when I'd done the foreground, which was a fairly straightforward job, and then the immediate, not so much background, but in relation to the dog, it was alongside. So you have to be a little bit more detailed with that. And then when you move back from that, that's when you have to start thinking very carefully about the field of vision that you have, the depth of field, I think they call that. So you've got when I was doing that, at one point in time, I thought, I wonder if this is going to work. And you actually see that on the video. I get to the point where I'm thinking, is this going to work? Well, I know it will work because I've done it many times before, but there's a little doubt there. But the main reason for that is the pastel matte paper. It likes lots and lots of pastel. If you don't give it enough, it doesn't work. You can't rub it with your finger, which I demonstrate that. I do a little bit of it and try rubbing with my finger, and it's very bitty. It's very, it streaks, probably is a better word for it. So, and that would fox people. I think, well, how is this going to work then? But the answer is you put more pastel on and you keep putting the pastel on until you get to the point where it's manageable. And when it gets to that point, it's fantastic. Because pastel matte does like plenty of pastel. Unlike ombre, which if you overdid ombre, it doesn't like it too much. So, but pastel matte's perfect for that. So that was the point which, all the way through the picture, I was thinking, I've got to do this background. And the other thing you've got to remember is you've got to put light against dark all the time. So, and if you're not careful, that could be contrived. You've got a dark here. Well, what do you put against a dark here? You can't put a dark tree against it, or foliage. So you have to put a light, and then you've got a light down the side of the face. You've got a lot of white there. What do you do with that? You can't. You've got to put something dark in there. You can't make it too light. You see what I mean? These are the things that you have to think, and you have to work it in to the background, and not making the background too, so to say, contrived. Which doesn't always happen with photography, because of the chap that's taking the photograph, or the lady taking the photograph, hasn't got any choice. They've got to take the photograph as to what they see. They can't move it like we can. An artist can move things around and change things around, so it's a better representation.
And is this one all pencils? Because they're usually, when you get to impressionistic backgrounds, you incorporate soft pastel or something else. But is this all pencil?
Yes, I do, and that's a good point. Actually, I did get to a point there where I was thinking maybe I shall bring the soft pastels in, but recently I haven't done that. I've used the pencils mainly because the pastel matte paper will take more levels, more what do you call it? Levels. What do you call it?
Layers?
Layers. God, more layers, and so therefore you can actually get away with the pencil. But I did wonder whether I was going to end up using the soft pastel or the stick pastel, should I say? But I didn't, and it turned out very well. I think probably I'm going to do that more, actually, rather than use the soft pastel. I think I'm going to stick to the pencils.
Mm. So let's talk about the dog itself. Similar colouring to a boxer dog, which you did a long time ago, and kind of similar dogs. I think they're quite close. Tell us about how you found the dog itself to do.
Well, it was quite a while ago since I did the boxer, and since then I've done a great deal of work, and you always get more, with more experience, you get different techniques creep in, and it so happened with this bulldog. I mean, it's still got that sort of pushed in face, so you still have that to contend with. But I must be honest, it didn't enter my mind when I was doing the bulldog to sort of relive the boxer. It went right out of my mind. So, and I think that's the right thing to do. You should see every picture on its merit. So it didn't, and certainly when, generally speaking, I say work in the direction of fur, don't I? It's a common phrase of mine. In this case, you'll see, when you see the video, and certainly where I'm using the side of the head, where it's turned to one side and you've got the sort of ochre colour. I didn't stick to that rule at all. In fact, I didn't stick to the rule anywhere on that ochre. The only time I did put some more direction of fur in is the white on the muzzle. But otherwise I didn't. So, but it still looks good. It still has a the present. I think probably because the dog has obviously got hair, but it's very fine hair. It's not long hair, so you can get away more with the sort of round circular movements, which I was doing with this. But interesting though, people will find it different.
Yeah, absolutely. What I love about this one is the foreground is very in focus. It's very realistic because it's right below the animal. And then as you graduate further to the back, it becomes more impressionistic. Like there's less and less detail as you almost like a camera lens, like gradually graduates using the depth of field. What's more in focus, what's more realistic, and you're translating that through the level of detail that you're putting in. I just find that very interesting. This one has a very clear foreground, middle ground, background, and the differentiation of realistic, slightly impressionistic.
Mm. I think it's what people are going to see and different about this than others I've done, because you've got an animal that has paws and a whole body, although it's facing you. Therefore, you've got to treat it slightly differently. You can't get away with any fogging, which I do a lot.
Yeah.
So you've got to be careful. You've got to be careful to put in detail, but not too much detail. I mean, if you were to blow that foreground up, you'll find it's not as detailed as you think it is. I get the impression it is, but it isn't. It's bits and pieces.
I'm zooming in now to see. Yeah, it's very, it's sort of vague, isn't it? But the textures are there.
And in the video, I go quite close up, so people see that better. When you pull away, of course, it looks good. You think, oh, look at all those little stones and how the bulldog sits. The other thing interesting, and I didn't realise this, because on the reference picture, the right-hand side, his left paw is slightly out of the focus. It's not quite, it's been cut off slightly on the reference picture. So I had to make that little bit up. And in making it up, I realised that he was actually, the paw was forward, but it was also slanting down slightly. See, one paw is lower than the other one. So I had to account for that as well. It was interesting little things that happen when you make things up, which I had to do with that. I couldn't cut his paw off. I had to. All the information was there. I just had to fill it up. But that also gave me an opportunity of making that instead of the horizon line or the line being right across, it dips down on that side, which makes it more interesting, I think.
Yeah, I didn't even notice that before you said that, that it slightly dips down and about that paw. That's a really interesting detail.
It's fascinating. And the other thing I did with that, and the reference picture didn't show it, I put some grass under his front where he's sitting. Just the indication of some grass there, that wasn't there. But I thought I will do that because then it looks more realistic if I then carry on the grass on the other side of his left paw. You see, these are little tiny things you have to think about when you're doing something like this to make it representative and also very attractive, which I think that is an attractive picture.
I agree, and I think that is lovely. It's going to be really interesting for people to see this one back, and I hope that just by talking about this picture, people have picked up some tips about this kind of positioning of an animal and what you can do to enhance it and change the photograph if you need to. So, no, lovely. Thanks for sharing your experiences with that one, Dad. That's great. That's great. Fantastic. Well, I hope you're all looking forward to doing that one. I'm looking forward to showing it to you. So let's have a look just before we wrap up for today. We have a shout out for one of our younger students that will be listening. So we wanted to give a shout out to Lily Grace, who is 10 years old, and with the help of their great aunt, Carol, they are following some of your classes. So I just thought we'd talk about, because 10 years old is quite young, and she did a lovely picture of one of your pictures,
Yes,
Bailey the bunny.
yes. That's about the youngest that we've had. I remember, I think I've mentioned this before, I had a 14-year-old come to one of my workshops. In fact, she came to several of my workshops. And she was very good. And she advanced in the time that I saw her. I suppose it would have been about 18 months, something like that. In different workshops I saw her. By the time she got to the last one, she was very good. She'd been doing the classes and doing the pastel pencil. But as I say, she was only 14. And that I think that's probably the youngest that I remember. I mean, there's probably plenty of others that have had a go at it, but we don't know about it. But it's nice to know that. 10, my goodness. And she'd made a very good job of it too, I've got to say.
Yeah, it's lovely to hear about. It's lovely to hear about all of our students, but it's incredibly special to know that there are some younger students out there that are following your work and using you for inspiration, because I just think that's lovely. It's really nice. Okie dokie. All right then. Well, we'll check in with you next week, Dad, and see how you're getting on with prepping this new picture. If you have anything that you want us to talk about, if you'd like a shout out, then please just let us know. Get in touch with us. You can get in touch with us by commenting on this video or sending us an email or visiting our website. Just go to colinbradleyart.com and you'll see many ways in which you can get in touch with us. I'm not going to call Mims back for an outro. She'll get quite annoyed.
Listening to?
But we will wrap it up there for this week. So thank you everyone for listening. I'm Stephen Bradley.
And I'm Colin Bradley. Enjoy your week. And then we'll say...
Start over.
Right, don't cock it up. It's depending on you.
That sounded like that was in time.
That's pretty good. I'm trying to time it because I know that there's a slight delay there. So I'm just trying to time it, waiting for you to start. Right, there you go. Another half a dozen of these and we'll probably get it right on then.
Okay. You ready?
I'm ready.